I want you to imagine something for me. You've spent 9 months in the desert, sleeping in 120-degree heat, dodging mortars, watching your brothers bleed, all while holding on to one thought: getting home to your family. Now imagine walking up to your own front door and instead of your wife's arms, you get FBI agents, handcuffs, and an accusation so vile it makes your stomach turn. That's exactly what Sandra did to me. My name is Trevor Harrison, and I'm 35 years old. My own wife, the woman I'd been faithful to for 8 years, the mother of my 6-year-old son, Tyler, looked those federal agents in the eye and told them I'd beaten her, threatened her, terrorized her. Every word a calculated lie. For about 30 seconds, I actually felt something break inside me. Not sadness, not shock, but pure, cold rage that sharpened every thought into a blade. Sandra thought I'd surrender, that I'd accept being the monster in her fabricated story. But soldiers don't quit when the enemy attacks. We eliminate the threat. This is the story of how I took everything she tried to steal and made certain she lost everything she valued. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from. And make sure to subscribe because tomorrow, I will share a story you don't want to miss. The heat hit me first when I stepped off the transport at Fort Campbell. That thick Kentucky humidity that feels like breathing through a wet blanket after 9 months of desert air. I was exhausted, sand still in my boots, my duffel smelling like dust and diesel. But none of that mattered. I was home. Finally home. The taxi ride to our house in Clarksville took 40 minutes. I spent most of it staring at my phone, looking at the last picture Sandra had sent me 3 weeks ago. Her and Tyler at his kindergarten graduation. She'd written, "We miss you so much, baby. Can't wait to have you home." I must have read that message 100 times during those final weeks in Afghanistan. I paid the driver, shouldered my duffel, and walked up the driveway. Our little ranch house with the blue shutters Sandra had insisted on painting herself. The lawn needed mowing, that was fine, I'd get to it tomorrow. Right now, I just wanted to hold my wife and my son. I never made it to the door. 2 black SUVs were parked on the street. I noticed them but didn't think much of it until 4 men in FBI windbreakers stepped out and started walking toward me with purpose. "Trevor Harrison?" the lead agent called out. He was maybe 45, gray at the temples, with the kind of face that had delivered bad news before. "Yeah, that's me." I set down my duffel slowly. My combat instincts were already prickling. "What's this about?" "Sir, I'm Special Agent Kenneth Whitmore with the FBI. We need you to come with us." His hand rested on his belt, near his weapon. Not threatening, but ready. "Come with you where?" "I just got home from deployment about an hour ago." "My family's inside." "Sir, we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of domestic violence, assault, and making terroristic threats against your spouse." The words hit me like a flashbang grenade. For a second, the world went absolutely silent except for the ringing in my ears. "What the hell are you talking about?" I took 1 step forward and immediately had 3 agents closing distance on me. "I've been in Afghanistan for 9 months. I haven't even seen my wife since February." "Sir, your wife has filed multiple complaints documenting a pattern of abuse. She has photographs, medical records, and witness statements. We need you to turn around and put your hands behind your back." That's when I saw her. Sandra stepped out onto the porch, and I swear to God, she had the audacity to look scared. She was wearing a long-sleeve shirt in August, covering up the bruises she'd probably faked, I realized later. Her dark hair was pulled back, and she held Tyler against her hip. My son. My boy looked confused and frightened. "Sandra!" I called out to her, my voice sharp enough to cut steel. "What the hell is this? What did you tell them?" She flinched. Actually flinched like I'd raised a hand to her. "Stay away from us, Trevor. Please just stay away." Agent Whitmore moved between us. "Sir, you need to comply right now, or we will use force." But I wasn't looking at him. I was staring at my wife, watching her performance, and something clicked into place. The messages that had gotten shorter over the last 2 months, the excuses about why we couldn't video chat, the way she'd stopped asking when I was coming home. "You planned this," I said, my voice low and cold. "You waited until I was on that transport. You wanted me to come home to this." "Trevor, please," she started, but I cut her off. No, you don't get to Trevor, please me." I have been faithful to you for 8 years. I have sent home every goddamn dollar I could spare. I have missed birthdays and anniversaries and first days of school, and you're standing there with our son telling federal agents I beat you? My voice was rising now, controlled rage pouring out. Look at me, Sandra. Look at my face and tell me I ever laid a hand on you in anger. She couldn't do it. She looked away, and that's when I knew for absolute certain. This was all calculated. Every bit of it. Sir, hands behind your back. Now, Agent Whitmore wasn't asking anymore. I complied because I'm not stupid, but I didn't take my eyes off Sandra. I'm going to fight this. You understand me? I'm going to fight this with everything I have, and when the truth comes out, and it will come out, you're going to lose everything. She already has a protective order, Agent Whitmore said as he clicked the cuffs on. You're not allowed within 500 feet of her or your son. That hurt worse than the handcuffs. Tyler was crying now, reaching for me, calling Daddy, and Sandra was pulling him back inside. Daddy didn't do anything wrong, buddy, I called out. Daddy will fix this, I promise. They put me in the SUV. As we pulled away, I saw Sandra watching from the window. She wasn't crying. She wasn't scared. She was talking on her phone, and I caught just a glimpse of something I'd never seen on her face before. Satisfaction. I spent that night in federal lockup while the guards processed my intake paperwork. They took my uniform, my boots, everything that marked me as a soldier who'd just served his country. Gave me orange scrubs and a thin mattress in a cell that smelled like bleach and desperation. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sandra's face on that porch. That calculated fear. The way she'd held Tyler like a shield. The satisfaction in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking. The guards completed their forms and left me alone with my thoughts. Those were dangerous company. 72 hours. That's how long they could hold me before my bail hearing. 72 hours in a 6x8 cell with nothing but time to think. So I thought. I reconstructed everything. The messages from Sandra over the past few months, they'd gotten shorter, hadn't they? I'd been so focused on staying alive in Kandahar that I hadn't noticed the pattern. Miss you became busy day, became talk later. The texts that used to run paragraphs about Tyler's day at school or what she'd cooked for dinner shrank to single sentences. Then there were the video calls. We used to talk twice a week when bandwidth allowed, but starting in May, she'd had excuses. Tyler was asleep. She wasn't feeling well. The connection was bad. I'd accepted every excuse because I trusted her, because I was her husband, and trust was supposed to be the foundation we built on. God, I'd been stupid. And the questions about my deployment, they'd stopped completely in June. She used to ask when I was rotating home, whether my dates had changed, if I'd heard anything about early leave. Then nothing. Like she'd stopped caring when I'd return. Because she hadn't wanted me to return. Not to her, anyway. She'd been planning this for months, building her case while I was dodging mortars and sleeping in 120-degree heat, documenting fake bruises, creating false evidence, coaching her story. All while I was deployed and couldn't defend myself. The realization made my hands shake with rage. I used my one phone call on the second day, dialed Timothy's number from memory. Trev? Jesus, where are you calling from? I'm in FBI custody. I need you to listen carefully because I don't have much time. I gave him the shortest version possible. Sandra's accusations, the arrest at my front door, the fabricated evidence. Timothy swore viciously. That's insane. Sandra? Our Sandra? The woman who cried at your deployment ceremony? That's the one. Tim, I need you to do something for me. I need you to call JAG, Judge Advocate General's office at Fort Campbell. I need military legal representation, and I need it now. And I need you to find me the most vicious divorce attorney in Tennessee. Already on it. Hang tight, little brother. We're going to bury her. Not we. Me. I'm going to bury her myself. You're just going to help me dig the hole. He understood. Timothy had always understood me. Whatever you need, I've got your back. Those next 2 days, I didn't waste time feeling sorry for myself. I formulated a plan, channeled every ounce of rage into cold tactical calculation. Sandra had made a critical error. She thought I'd break. She thought I'd accept this nightmare she'd created and just disappear quietly. She'd forgotten who she married. I don't break. I fight back. And when someone declares war on me, I don't just win, I obliterate them. The bail hearing came on day 3. They brought me into the courtroom in shackles. Sandra was there, sitting in the gallery, still playing her role. She wouldn't look at me. The prosecutor, a woman named Patricia Mendoza with sharp eyes and an agenda, presented Sandra's fabricated evidence. Photographs of bruises on Sandra's arms and ribs. A hospital record from April showing a sprained wrist. Statements from 2 of Sandra's friends. Women I'd met maybe twice claiming they'd witnessed me behaving aggressively toward Sandra at social events. I watched the judge's face as Mendoza painted me as a dangerous veteran with PTSD, a ticking time bomb who'd terrorized his wife for years. Then Captain Damian Roberts stood up. My JAG attorney looked like he could argue the devil out of hell. Sharp suit, military bearing, and absolutely zero patience for lies. Your Honor, I'd like to present Mr. Harrison's deployment records. He handed documents to the judge. You'll notice that during the incidents of March 15th, April 2nd, and April 23rd, 3 of the dates Mrs. Harrison claims abuse occurred, Sergeant Harrison was in Kandahar, Afghanistan. He was serving his country 9,000 miles away. He couldn't have committed these alleged crimes because he wasn't in the country. The judge looked up sharply, looked at the prosecutor. Ms. Mendoza? Patricia Mendoza fumbled. Your Honor, Mrs. Harrison has documented numerous other incidents, but these specific incidents she documented didn't happen. Or at least they didn't happen with my client present. Roberts wasn't giving an inch, which raises serious questions about the credibility of all her claims. The judge studied the records for a long moment. When he looked at me, I met his eyes directly. I had nothing to hide. Bail is set at $50,000. The protective order remains in effect. Mr. Harrison, you are not to contact your wife or approach your residence. Next hearing is in 3 weeks. The gavel came down. Timothy posted bail within an hour. I walked out of that courthouse into the August sun, and Captain Roberts was waiting. I want to destroy her, I said quietly. Legally, thoroughly, completely. Can you do that? He smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. Sergeant Harrison, I've been practicing military law for 12 years. I've seen false accusations before, but never one this elaborate. Which tells me your wife had help. Someone coached her through this. And yes, I can absolutely destroy her case. But I need you to do exactly what I tell you when I tell you with no deviation. Can you do that? I spent 9 months taking orders in a combat zone, Captain. I think I can manage. Good. He opened his briefcase. Then let's go to war. The next morning, Timothy drove me to Clarksville for the meeting Angela McKinley had set up. Her office was in a brick building downtown, the kind of place that screamed established and expensive. Angela herself was exactly what I needed. 50s, steel gray hair pulled back tight, wearing a power suit that could have cut glass. She had the kind of eyes that saw through bullshit instantly. Mr. Harrison, she said, shaking my hand with a grip that meant business. Captain Roberts has briefed me on your situation. Please sit. I sat. Captain Roberts took the chair beside me. Angela didn't waste time. Let me be direct with you. Your wife has put you in a very difficult position. She's positioned herself as a sympathetic abuse victim. She has custody of your son. And she's filed for divorce requesting full custody, the house, and 70% of your military benefits. Over my dead body. That's the spirit. She opened a folder, spread documents across her desk. Now here's what we're going to do. Tennessee is a fault-based divorce state. If we can prove she fabricated these charges, she loses everything. No alimony, no benefits, and we get custody. But we need evidence. Captain Roberts leaned forward. I've handled enough of these cases to know the pattern. Women don't blow up their marriages and commit federal crimes for no reason. Your wife has a replacement lined up. Someone she met while you were deployed. We find him, we find the motive, and her whole case collapses. The thought made my jaw clench. Sandra hadn't just betrayed me. She'd been planning a whole new life while I was getting shot at overseas. How do we find him? I asked. Already working on it. Angela pulled out another sheet. I've hired a private investigator. Former FBI, actually. His name is Jonas Wright. He's very good at finding things people don't want found. While Captain Roberts handles your criminal defense, Jonas and I will build your divorce case. What does he need from me? Your authorization to investigate everything. Sandra's social media, phone records, credit card statements, daily movements, anything that might give us leverage. He has it, whatever it takes. Good. Angela's smile was sharp. Jonas works fast. Give him a week, maybe 2, and we'll have something. She was wrong about the timeline. It took 9 days. 9 days of staying at Timothy's place in Louisville, forbidden by court order from going near my own house. 9 days of not seeing Tyler, not being able to tuck him in or tell him everything was going to be okay. 9 days of controlled rage that felt like it would burn a hole through my chest. Then Jonas called. Trevor, I found your guy. I was in Timothy's kitchen when my phone rang. I stepped outside onto the back deck. Talk to me. His name is Dustin Adamson. He's a personal trainer at FlexCore Fitness on Madison Street. Sandra joined that gym 6 months ago, right after you deployed. 6 months. She'd been with him the entire time I was gone. What else? I've got photos of them together, time-stamped hotel check-ins while you were deployed, text messages I pulled from a cloud backup she forgot to delete. It's extensive, Trevor. She's been planning to leave you and take everything. The abuse allegations were her exit strategy. Can you prove the allegations are false? Even better, I found the source of those bruises. Jonas sounded satisfied. She and Adamson do intensive couples workouts, boxing, martial arts training. Those injuries she documented? They're from training sessions. I've got gym security footage showing them sparring, and her walking out with the exact marks she later claimed you inflicted. I closed my eyes, felt something cold and calculating settle into place. Send everything to Captain Roberts and Angela. Already done. But Trevor, there's one more thing. One of her hospital visits, the one from April she claimed was from you attacking her. Yeah? It happened on March 15th. You were in Kandahar on March 15th. I've got your deployment records, timestamps, even a photo your squad leader posted of you on base that day. She'd forgotten to check whether I was even in the country. Jonas, I said quietly, you beautiful bastard. 3 weeks after my arrest, I walked into federal court with Captain Roberts and Timothy. The building had that institutional smell, floor polish and recycled air, that reminded me of every military facility I'd ever been in. Sandra was already there with her attorney, sitting at the plaintiff's table. She looked nervous. Good. The gallery was nearly empty. Just a handful of court watchers and a journalist from the base newspaper. This wasn't going to be some dramatic trial. Captain Roberts had promised me it would be quick and brutal. He delivered. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s named Morrison, called the hearing to order. The prosecutor stood up first, outlining the charges against me with all the confidence of someone who thought they had a slam-dunk case. Then Captain Roberts stood up. Your Honor, the defense will demonstrate that every allegation against Sergeant Harrison is fabricated. We'll start with the deployment records. He pulled up a timeline on the courtroom screen. Dates and locations, all officially stamped by the Department of Defense. Your Honor, Mrs. Harrison alleges my client assaulted her on February 3rd, March 15th, April 7th, and May 22nd. Sergeant Harrison was stationed at Kandahar Airfield in Afghanistan during all 4 dates. He was physically incapable of committing these alleged crimes because he was serving his country 7,000 miles away. The prosecutor's face went pale. Captain Roberts wasn't done. He called his first witness, a forensic analyst named Dr. Patricia Keene who specialized in injury documentation. She was professional, clinical, and absolutely devastating. Dr. Keene, what can you tell us about the injuries in Mrs. Harrison's photographs? She pulled up the images on the screen. Bruises on ribs, arms, shoulders. These injuries are consistent with impact training and martial arts practice, not domestic violence. The bruising patterns, the locations, the healing timeline, everything matches consensual athletic activity. Notice the distribution here. She pointed to Sandra's ribs. This is textbook sparring injury. A domestic assault would show different patterns, particularly defensive wounds on the forearms and hands. So these are not from being beaten by her husband? No. These are from voluntary combat training. I watched Sandra shift in her seat. She knew what was coming next. Captain Roberts pulled out his trump card. Your Honor, we have surveillance footage from FlexCore Fitness that will demonstrate exactly how Mrs. Harrison received these injuries. The lights dimmed. The courtroom went dead silent. The footage played. Sandra and Dustin Adamson, clear as day, sparring in the gym, boxing, grappling. You could see her take a hit to the ribs, a solid strike that made her wince. That exact bruise showed up in her evidence photos 3 days later, labeled as an assault from me. The prosecutor looked like he wanted to disappear. Captain Roberts let the footage speak for itself, then called Special Agent Whitmore to the stand. Kenneth walked up looking uncomfortable, like he knew what was coming. Agent Whitmore, did you verify Mr. Harrison's location during the alleged incidents before arresting him? We relied on the victim's statements and supporting evidence. That's a no. Did you contact the Department of Defense to confirm his deployment status? The evidence provided seemed credible. Another no. Agent Whitmore, isn't it true that a simple phone call to Fort Campbell would have revealed that Mr. Harrison was serving overseas during half of these alleged crimes? Whitmore shifted. In hindsight, yes. In hindsight. Captain Roberts let that hang in the air. Mr. Harrison spent 3 days in federal custody, had his military career jeopardized, and was separated from his son because you didn't make one phone call, is that correct? We followed procedure based on the information provided. Information that was fabricated. No further questions. The judge called a recess. When we came back 15 minutes later, the prosecutor looked like he'd aged a decade. Your Honor, in light of new evidence that directly contradicts the complainant's allegations, the state moves to dismiss all charges against Sergeant Harrison. Judge Morrison nodded. Motion granted. All charges dismissed. The protective order is hereby vacated. Mr. Harrison, you're free to go. Just like that, it was over. Outside the courthouse, Sandra tried to approach me. Captain Roberts stepped between us immediately, but I held up a hand. Let her talk. Sandra looked desperate now. Her whole scheme was collapsing in real time. Trevor, please, I need to explain. You had months to talk to me, Sandra. You chose to talk to the FBI instead. I made a mistake. We can fix this. You didn't make a mistake. You declared war. I stepped closer, my voice cold and controlled. I know about Dustin. I know when it started, where you met, how many times you lied to me while I was deployed. I know everything. Her face crumbled. Trevor, you tried to have me imprisoned. You tried to take my son. You committed federal crimes to steal my benefits and run off with your personal trainer. So no, we're not going to fix this. You're going to face consequences. What does that mean? It means the next battle happens in divorce court. And when I'm done, you're going to lose custody of Tyler. You're going to lose the house. You're going to walk away with nothing, Sandra, absolutely nothing, because that's what you deserve. Timothy touched my shoulder. Come on, Trev, she's not worth it. He was right. I turned and walked away, leaving Sandra standing there looking broken. But I wasn't done with her yet. Not even close. The morning after the criminal charges evaporated, Angela McKinley didn't waste a second. She filed an emergency motion for temporary custody of Tyler before most people had finished their coffee. We strike while Sandra's credibility is in ruins, Angela told me over the phone. She just got exposed for filing false charges. The family court judge will see that. The hearing was scheduled 5 days out. 5 days of not being able to see my son, knowing he was still with a woman who'd proven she'd lie about anything to get what she wanted. Jonas Wright kept digging during those 5 days. He called me on day 3 with something that made my blood boil. Trevor, I found Sandra's financial records. She's been pulling out cash for 4 months. Big withdrawals, $1,500 here, $2,000 there. Totals up to almost $18,000. Where'd it go? That's the thing. It's unaccounted for. My guess? She was stashing it for her new life with Adamson, setting up a nest egg so she could bolt the second you got home. She planned all of it. Every bit. But here's where it gets better. Jonas sounded satisfied. I looked into Dustin Adamson's background. This guy's a professional con artist. He's been sued 3 times for fraud related to his life coaching business. He convinces women to invest in his programs, takes their money, then disappears. One case involved $35,000. I felt my jaw tighten. So he targeted Sandra. Exactly. He saw a military wife with deployment money and benefits, and he played her. I think he's the one who coached her through this whole scheme. Convinced her that framing you was the only way she could access your assets without a fight. She's not the mastermind here, Trevor. She's another one of his marks. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. Sandra was an adult who made her own choices. Angela filed additional motions attaching all of Jonas's findings, the financial records, Dustin's fraud history, evidence showing he'd targeted military wives before. We were building a picture of calculated deception, and Sandra was right in the middle of it. The custody hearing arrived. Judge Diane Hansen presided, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and zero patience for nonsense. Sandra showed up with her attorney, Gerald Sanders, a guy who specialized in defending victimized women. He opened with exactly the angle I expected. Your Honor, my client is a frightened woman who took desperate measures to protect herself and her son from a dangerous combat veteran with PTSD. Stop right there. Angela stood up, her voice cutting through the courtroom. Mr. Harrison doesn't have PTSD. His psychological evaluations are clean, and he was cleared of all criminal charges because your client fabricated evidence. She's not a victim, she's a criminal. Gerald tried to recover. Your Honor, Mrs. Harrison acted out of genuine fear. Angela cut him off again. Let's show the court what Mrs. Harrison was really doing while her husband served overseas. She played the gym footage, Sandra and Dustin sparring, laughing, getting close. Then she showed the deployment records, dates and times proving I was in Afghanistan when Sandra claimed I'd beaten her. Then the text messages between Sandra and Dustin, talking about their future together, about how much money they'd have once Sandra took care of things. Gerald Sanders looked like he wanted to object, but he had nothing. Angela kept going. Your Honor, we also have evidence that Mrs. Harrison withdrew $18,000 in cash over 4 months, hiding assets in preparation for abandoning her family. And we have evidence that Mr. Dustin Adamson has been sued 3 times for defrauding women he targeted through his personal training business. Mrs. Harrison isn't a frightened victim. She's the willing accomplice of a con artist who manipulated her into destroying her husband. Judge Hansen's expression darkened. She looked directly at Sandra. Mrs. Harrison, do you understand the gravity of what you've done? You made false accusations against a service member. You lied to federal investigators. You weaponized law enforcement against your own husband. Sandra was crying now. Real tears this time, not the performance she'd given the FBI. I was confused, Sandra said, her voice breaking. Dustin told me it was the only way to protect myself financially. So you admit this was financially motivated? Gerald Sanders tried to object, but Judge Hansen silenced him with a look. Sandra's face crumpled completely. I didn't know what else to do. Dustin said Trevor would take everything if I just filed for divorce. He said I needed to make sure I had the upper hand. There it was. Confession in open court. Judge Hansen didn't hesitate. I've heard enough. Temporary custody is granted to Mr. Harrison, effective immediately. Mrs. Harrison will have supervised visitation only, pending the final divorce hearing. And Mrs. Harrison, I am referring your case to the district attorney's office for prosecution. You filed false police reports, you made false statements to federal agents. Those are crimes, and you will face consequences. Sandra looked devastated. Her attorney looked embarrassed. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Judge Hansen looked at me. Mr. Harrison, you'll take custody of your son today. The bailiff will coordinate the transfer. Thank you, Your Honor. I was getting Tyler back. Finally. I picked Tyler up from Sandra's supervised visit that same afternoon. The social worker handed him over with paperwork I barely glanced at. I just wanted my son. Tyler looked confused as we walked to the car. He kept turning around looking for Sandra. Where's Mommy going? She's staying here for now, buddy. Why can't she come home? I buckled him into his car seat and took a breath. How do you explain betrayal to a 6-year-old? You don't. You just give him what he needs in that moment. When we got home, I knelt down to his level, right there in the driveway. Tyler's eyes were wet, his little face scrunched up, trying not to cry. Tyler, listen to me. Mommy and I aren't going to live together anymore. We're going to be in different houses. But no matter what happens, I promise you, I'm going to take care of you. Always. Do you understand? Did I do something bad? God, that broke something in me. No. Buddy, no. You didn't do anything wrong. This is grown-up stuff, okay? None of this is your fault. He hugged me tight, and I held him until he was ready to let go. The next month moved fast. The district attorney filed charges against Sandra, filing false reports, a Class A misdemeanor in Tennessee. Could have been worse for her, but it was something. The trial was short. Captain Roberts testified about the fabricated evidence. Kenneth Whitmore took the stand looking like he'd aged 5 years, admitting the FBI had failed to verify basic facts before arresting me. Sandra pleaded guilty. The judge gave her probation and a $10,000 fine. No jail time, which pissed me off, but at least it was on her record permanently. Dustin Adamson saw the writing on the wall and ran. Just packed up and moved to Florida, cutting Sandra off completely. The man who'd convinced her to destroy her marriage disappeared the second things got complicated. Coward. I filed a civil suit against him for alienation of affection. My attorney said we had a strong case. I didn't care about the money. I wanted him to pay something for what he'd helped Sandra do. The divorce proceedings became a formality after that. Sandra had nothing left to bargain with. Angela laid out the terms in her office. I got full custody of Tyler. I kept all my military benefits. I kept the house. Sandra got nothing. No alimony, no shared assets, no support. Gerald Sanders tried to negotiate. Mr. Harrison, my client needs something to rebuild her life. Angela didn't even let him finish. Your client committed crimes to try to steal from my client. She fabricated evidence, lied to federal agents, and weaponized the legal system. She's lucky we're not seeking additional damages for emotional distress and defamation. Take the deal, or we file more suits and make sure she never recovers financially. Sanders looked at Sandra. She just nodded, defeated. She signed the papers 2 days later. Didn't say a word, just signed and walked out. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I'd built a new routine. I'd left active duty and taken a logistics coordinator position at Fort Campbell. Same work, basically, but it meant I was home every night for Tyler. No more deployments, no more months away. Just me and my son figuring out how to be a family again. Saturday mornings became our thing. We'd go to the Grindhouse, this coffee shop near base that made decent espresso and had a corner with toys for military kids. Tyler would play while I read the paper and drank coffee that didn't taste like diesel fuel. That's when I started noticing her. Emily Davis, pediatric nurse at the base hospital. She came in most Saturdays, always ordered the same thing, vanilla latte, extra foam. Auburn hair usually pulled back in a ponytail. Had this warm, genuine smile that actually reached her eyes. We'd exchanged small talk a few times. Weather, traffic, how good the coffee was. Nothing deep. But I found myself looking forward to those brief conversations in a way I hadn't expected. One Saturday, Tyler was chasing another kid around the shop, just playing, being 6. He rounded a corner too fast and crashed right into a display of coffee mugs near the counter. The sound was spectacular, ceramic everywhere. Tyler! I rushed over, already apologizing to the owner while trying to make sure Tyler wasn't hurt. But Emily got there first. She knelt down next to Tyler, who looked terrified and embarrassed, on the verge of tears. Hey, buddy, she said gently. Accidents happen, okay? You're not in trouble. Are you hurt anywhere? Tyler shook his head, his lip trembling. Good. Tell you what, how about you help me carry some bags to my car? I could really use a strong helper. I realized she was giving him a way out, a way to feel useful instead of ashamed. It was such a small thing, but it told me everything about who she was. Tyler nodded and followed her outside. I watched through the window as she pulled a couple shopping bags from her trunk and let him carry them back inside, praising him for being such a good helper. When they came back in, Tyler was smiling again. Emily walked over to where I was cleaning up the broken mugs. You've got a good kid there. Thanks. He's been through a lot lately. I heard a little through the base grapevine. She paused, careful. If you ever need someone to talk to, or if Tyler does, I work with kids who've been through trauma. It's kind of my specialty. I should have thrown up walls, should have kept my distance, but something about her made me want to be honest. His mom tried to frame me for domestic violence while I was deployed. We're still working through it. Emily didn't flinch, didn't get awkward. She just nodded. That's awful. I'm sorry you both went through that. She smiled. For what it's worth, you seem like you're doing a great job with him. I'm trying. That's all any of us can do. She offered her hand. I'm Emily, by the way, Emily Davis. I shook it. Trevor Harrison. Nice to officially meet you, Trevor Harrison. And just like that, something shifted. 5 months into dating Emily, life had settled into something I hadn't felt in years. Normal. Good even. Emily integrated into our lives naturally. Never pushing, never trying to force herself into Tyler's world. She'd join us for dinners, movies, trips to the park. Tyler responded to her patience, slowly opening up, laughing more. She carved out her own space in our family and it felt right. Then Sandra showed up. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I'd come home early to work on the backyard fence that had been sagging since winter. I was 3 boards in when I heard a car pull up out front. I looked up to see Sandra getting out of a beat-up Honda Civic. She looked terrible. Gaunt. Like she'd lost 20 pounds she couldn't afford to lose. Her hair was dyed blonde now, poorly, with dark roots showing through. The clothes she wore had seen better days, wrinkled and ill-fitting. She stayed on the sidewalk. At least she remembered that much. Trevor, she called out. Can we talk, please? I set down my hammer and walked to the property line. You're violating the custody agreement. You're only supposed to see Tyler during supervised visits. I know, I needed to talk to you, alone. So talk. She took a shaky breath. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I'm asking you to have mercy. I can't afford my apartment anymore. I lost my job because my boss found out about the false charges. I'm about to be evicted and I have nowhere to go. I stared at her. And that's my problem, how? Trevor, I'm Tyler's mother. You made dozens of calculated decisions designed to destroy me and take my son. That's not a mistake, Sandra, that's malice. I was manipulated by Dustin. You're an adult. You made your choices. You don't get to blame someone else for your decisions. Tears started running down her face. I don't have anyone else to turn to. My family won't talk to me. I've lost everything. Good. The word came out cold. You should lose everything. You tried to take everything from me and now you're upset that there are consequences? What about Tyler? Don't you care that his mother is suffering? That one almost made me laugh. Tyler has a parent who's there for him, me. You stopped being his mother when you decided to use him as a weapon. You don't get to play the mom card now. Please, Trevor, I'm begging you. Just a little help. A loan. Something. No. Get off my property, Sandra, and don't come back. Next time you show up here uninvited, I'm calling the police. She stood there for a long moment, broken, defeated. Then she turned and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away, waiting until the Honda disappeared around the corner. Part of me, a very small part, felt a flicker of pity. Then I remembered the FBI agents handcuffing me in my own driveway. I remembered Tyler crying, reaching for me while Sandra pulled him away. I remembered 3 days in a federal cell for crimes I didn't commit. The pity evaporated. I went back to fixing my fence. That evening, Emily came over for dinner. Tyler was in the living room watching cartoons while I told her about Sandra's visit. How do you feel about it? She asked, leaning against the kitchen counter. Nothing. I feel nothing. Is that cold? No, it's self-preservation. She tried to destroy you, Trevor. You don't owe her anything. She looked really bad. And whose fault is that? Emily's voice was gentle but firm. She made her choices. You can't set yourself on fire to keep her warm, especially after she tried to burn you alive. You're right. I know you're right. But it's still hard, she finished for me. Because you're a good person, and good people struggle with watching others suffer even when they deserve it. That's what makes you different from her. I pulled her close, pressing my forehead against hers. Thank you. For what? For being nothing like her. 2 weeks later, Angela called. Trevor, we have a problem. Sandra's filed an appeal for increased visitation rights and is requesting alimony based on hardship. My hand tightened on the phone. What? How is that even possible after everything? It's a long shot, but her new attorney is arguing that she's rehabilitated, that she's completed anger management and therapy, and that denying her access to Tyler is punitive rather than protective. Her new attorney? I thought Sanders dropped her. He did. This is some pro bono legal aid lawyer who's either naive or desperate for a win. Either way, we have to respond to the filing, and there's going to be another hearing. I felt that old rage bubbling up. She just won't stop. Narcissists rarely do. But Trevor, we've beaten her before, and we'll beat her again. Just stay calm and let me handle this. I hung up and stared at the wall. Sandra wasn't done fighting. Fine. Neither was I. Jonas didn't waste time. Over the next 3 weeks, he tracked Sandra's movements, her routines, everything. He called me on day 17 with news that made my jaw clench. Trevor. Sandra's living with someone. Guy named Albert Romero. He's got a record. Petty theft, shoplifting. Did 18 months probation about 3 years back. You're kidding me. Wish I was. I've got photos of them together at her apartment, him coming and going at all hours. This is the guy she's building her stable, rehabilitated life with. A convicted thief. I almost laughed. Angela's going to love this. Already sent her everything. Sandra's attorney is walking into a buzzsaw. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Angela, Jonas, and I walked into Judge Hanson's courtroom with a file thick enough to stop a bullet. Sandra's new attorney, some young guy in an ill-fitting suit who looked fresh out of law school, stood up first. Your Honor, my client has taken every step to better herself. She's attended therapy, completed all court-ordered programs, and simply wants to be a part of her son's life. She's turned her life around. Angela stood. She didn't smile. She never smiled when she was about to destroy someone. Your Honor, Mrs. Harrison is currently cohabiting with Albert Romero, a convicted criminal with a record for petty theft. She's failed to maintain stable employment. She's been fired from 2 jobs in the last 4 months, and she's shown absolutely no genuine remorse for the severe harm she caused her family. Angela slid a folder across to the judge. We have photographs, employment records, and Mr. Romero's criminal history. This isn't rehabilitation. This is Mrs. Harrison trying to use the court system to access Mr. Harrison's resources again. Judge Hanson flipped through the file. Her expression went from neutral to irritated in about 10 seconds. Mrs. Harrison, is it true you're living with Mr. Romero? Sandra's attorney started to answer, but Judge Hanson cut him off. I asked Mrs. Harrison. Sandra looked like she wanted to disappear. Yes, Your Honor. But Albert's changed. He's not. He has a criminal record. You're asking me to increase your access to your son while you're living with someone who has demonstrated a pattern of illegal behavior. Judge Hanson closed the file. Motion denied. The custody arrangement stands as is. Mrs. Harrison, until you can demonstrate genuine stability, which you clearly have not, you will not receive increased visitation or any financial support from Mr. Harrison. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. It was over in less than 15 minutes. Outside the courthouse, Sandra caught up to me on the steps. Albert was waiting by a beat-up sedan, looking uncomfortable and out of place. Trevor, please, I just want to see my son. You see him twice a month under supervision. That's more than you deserve. You've moved on. You have Emily. You have Tyler. You have everything. I stopped walking and turned to face her. Really looked at her. She was right. I did have everything. Because I'd fought for it. Because I'd refused to let her destroy me. I built everything from the ashes of what you burned down, Sandra. You don't get to be upset that I survived. I hope you're happy, Trevor. I hope she's everything you want. She is. Because she's nothing like you. I walked to my truck and drove away without looking back. 1 month later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Is this Trevor Harrison? Yeah. Who's this? This is Albert Romero. I'm Sandra's boyfriend. Listen, man, I don't know how to say this, but Sandra's in the hospital. She overdosed on pills last night. They're saying it was a suicide attempt. My stomach dropped. Is she alive? Yeah, she's stable, but she kept asking for you. Said she needed to talk to you. I'm not coming. Man, I get it. I know what she did to you. She told me everything. But she's in a bad place, and I think she's serious about wanting to make things right. Albert, I don't know you, but I'm going to give you some advice. Run. Sandra doesn't make things right. She makes things worse, and then she blames everyone else. Don't get sucked into her drama. I care about her, man. Yeah, well, I used to care about her too. Look where that got me. I exhaled slowly. Tell Sandra if she wants to apologize, she can write it in a letter. I'm not visiting her in any hospital. And Albert? Get out before she destroys your life like she tried to destroy mine. I hung up. 18 months after the divorce was finalized, I brought Tyler to the grindhouse on a Saturday morning. Emily was already there, sitting at our usual table with 2 coffees waiting. She didn't know what was coming. Tyler knew. I'd asked his permission first, and he'd been so excited he'd nearly blown the surprise 3 times that week. Hey, Emily said as we sat down. You 2 look suspicious. Do we? I pulled the small box from my pocket and got down on one knee right there between the tables. Emily's hand went to her mouth. Emily Davis, you showed up in my life when everything was falling apart. You were patient with me, kind to my son, and honest when I needed it most. You didn't try to fix me. You just gave me space to heal. And now I can't imagine my life without you in it. I opened the box. Will you marry me? She was already crying. Yes, absolutely yes. Tyler cheered so loud the entire coffee shop turned to look. Then everyone started applauding, and Emily was laughing and crying at the same time while I slipped the ring on her finger. The owner brought us free pastries. Strangers congratulated us. It was perfect. Everything a proposal should be. We got married 6 months later at the base chapel. Small ceremony. Just the people who actually mattered. Timothy stood next to me as best man, grinning like an idiot. Tyler carried the rings down the aisle without dropping them, which I'd been worried about all week. Emily's family flew in from Oregon. My army buddies showed up in dress uniforms. The chaplain kept it short and meaningful. When Emily walked down that aisle in her simple white dress, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Certainty. Complete, absolute certainty that I was making the right choice. Sandra had no part in any of it. She'd faded into the background over those months. Supervised visits became sporadic. She'd miss scheduled times, show up late, sometimes not show up at all. Eventually, she just stopped coming. I heard through Angela that Sandra had moved to Memphis working as a waitress somewhere. I didn't ask for details. Didn't check up on her. She'd become irrelevant. Tyler adjusted better than I could have hoped. Kids are resilient when they've got stability and love. He started calling Emily Mom about 3 months after the wedding. His choice, completely unprompted, just came out naturally one morning at breakfast. Mom, can you pass the syrup? Emily froze, eyes welling up. Tyler didn't even notice he'd said it. I reached over and squeezed her hand. She squeezed back. School was going great. He had friends, good grades, and 0 behavioral issues. No nightmares, no acting out. The kid was thriving. 1 year after the wedding, Sandra signed away her parental rights. Angela called with the news. She's citing inability to provide care. She's not contesting Emily's adoption petition. She's giving up completely? Looks that way. I think she finally accepted she destroyed that relationship permanently. The adoption hearing was one of the happiest days of my life. Judge Hanson presided. She'd requested the case specifically. Wanted to see the positive resolution after everything we'd been through. Mr. Harrison, Mrs. Harrison and Tyler, this has been a long journey, but I'm delighted to officially recognize Emily Davis Harrison as Tyler's legal mother. Congratulations to all of you. Tyler hugged Emily so hard he nearly knocked her over. She was crying happy tears. So was I, if I'm being honest. Life kept moving forward. Emily became head nurse in the pediatric department. I got promoted to senior logistics coordinator. We had another kid, a daughter we named Leslie. Tyler was the best big brother, protective and gentle with her. We bought a bigger house with a yard where Tyler could actually run around. Got a golden retriever named Charlie that Tyler absolutely adored. The civil suit against Dustin finally settled. $75,000 in damages for alienation of affection and his role in coaching Sandra through the false accusations. That money went straight into college funds for Tyler and Leslie. Neither of them would struggle to pay for school. 3 years after everything fell apart, I ran into Special Agent Whitmore at the commissary on base. He recognized me immediately, looked uncomfortable. "Sergeant Harrison." "Special Agent Whitmore. I owe you an apology." He shifted his grocery basket. "The way that case was handled, the way I handled it, was wrong. We should have verified your deployment status immediately. I'm sorry for what you went through. I appreciated it, even if it was years late. I don't think you were malicious, just overworked and too trusting of a convincing liar. Still, you lost 3 days in a cell and your reputation took a hit. That's on me. It worked out. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead us to where we're supposed to be." He nodded. "I heard you got married. Congratulations." "Thank you. Life's good now." And it was. Sandra tried to destroy me. Really tried. Put everything she had into tearing me down, stealing my son, ruining my reputation, but she only succeeded in clearing the path for something better. I'm married to Emily. Tyler has a real mother who deserves the title. Leslie will never know what it's like to have a parent who lies. Sandra's still in Memphis somewhere, working minimum wage with zero relationship to Tyler. She's facing the permanent consequences of her choices. And I'm living the life she tried to steal. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.